Hey, we're just basking in the sunshine backstage. Welcome to Rich James Leicester Square Theatre podcast. It's a return for Nish Kumar. How exciting is that? Please buy my book, Emergency Questions, available from all good bookshops. Why not buy it from gofasterstripe.com/EQ? Chris Evans, not that one, deserves your money more than Ian Amazon, but buy it from him as well if you like. Also, this show is sponsored by beer52.com. If you want 8 free craft beers, just go to beer52.com/RHLSTP and you can get them just for paying a little tiny bit of money for package and posting, and then you get 8 beers and you're allowed to drink them down. Glug, glug, glug. Delicious. And then you can either stay subscribed and get 8 beers a month for £24 or just get on your merry way. That's the offer. That's what we're offering you. I love to give you free stuff, my friends, my fan friends. So this isn't free, but if you shoplift it, it is. Anyway, let's sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of Rich James Leicester Square Theatre podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Leicester Square Theatre. Please welcome a man who's really looking forward to meeting Michael Sheen. It's Richard Herring! Oh yeah, can't wait. It's going to be amazing. It's really going to be amazing. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much. You're much better than last week's audience. Welcome to Rich James Leicester Square Theatre podcast. I was inhaling gas with the priestess Pythia, still drunk from last week. Didn't think of how difficult it would be to say the priestess Pythia when I wrote this down. The Oracle of Delphi, as you know, she predicted in 390 AD that in the future people will be calling this RHLSTP. So that's how cool, pretty cool. Yeah. Priestess Pythia. Hey, look, I've been doing the PTA quiz I mentioned last week. Been ruminating, thinking about it for a week, and we did okay. It's it's nice to live in a little village, and I don't really know the people very well, but I think everyone seems really nice. Everyone's really friendly. We're on a table of people whose kids are at the nursery, and they were lovely, and we did really well. We came second. We lost by 2 points. If we'd just played our Joker on a different round, we'd have won. If someone said Meccano was Latin for I make, it was Lego. I can't hold. I'm not too worried. We did quite well, but the morning I tweeted saying, "Oh, is that even in real life, I do as well as quizzes as I do on TV, and we'd come second." And then one of the winning team, who incidentally there were 10 of them. And there were 8 on the other team, so I'm not saying anything. But they... I'm not going to make a fuss. It was all in good fun. She tweeted me, because there was a question saying, which organ develops first in the human fetus? David, do you know the answer to that? No, you don't know. It's the heart. That's because you don't have a heart, David, so you wouldn't know that. And... one of the nicest men on the planet. Yeah, you wouldn't know. It's the heart. And then she said, she said, I'm just going to find it. She sent a link to ranker.com, which is a very fine website, which said that scientists claim that babies start as an anus. She added, unless you got anus as well, then we actually won by 3 points. That wasn't a phrase I expected to be tweeted by a stranger from my village. I was pretty sure that anus is merely an opening and not an organ. But I Googled it first to check, and I was right. And so I said, but the anus is an opening, not an organ. I will content myself with knowing we got the most questions right, but were defeated by a bad Joker round. I'm not going to let it go. She replied with a link to Quora listed the anus as a sexual organ, saying, I'm at a disadvantage because I don't understand Twitter, but the internet is keen to say that the anus is a multifunctional organ of great importance. And now I'm late for church. I said, don't let God hear you call it a sexual organ. Don't think that was his intention. She said, anal sex very rarely crops up on the 3rd Sunday in the month family service. So I love living. I love living in the countryside, that's all I'm saying. I didn't expect that on a Sunday morning, I have to say, so I don't even really know who that person is. But, we're good friends. It was my wife's birthday, and if a comedian can't discuss anal sex with a stranger on his wife's birthday without getting into trouble, I mean, what can comedians do on their partner's birthdays? Still in it, isn't he? So, probably not while you're listening at home. So, okay, my guest tonight... Probably best known for his appearance in Frostniks. Though you may know him from Word of the Year 2017. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nish Kumar! Welcome, Nish. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is exactly the atmosphere I like to come out. Just audible and visible disappointment from a group of people who believed they would be seeing a legitimate, bona fide movie star and instead have got to put up with the world's fattest Mo Salah lookalike. Here I
am. Thank you for stepping in.
No problem, mate. I mean, I feel like it's, I feel great about it.
Well, you should, because, the first time you're on, just after Brexit, when things were a bit depressing, when the vote had been made, I was mainly joking about how few people were in the audience.
Yeah.
And
now...
tonight, admittedly, mainly on the strength of those there. But what's interesting, people had a chance, maybe you didn't know about this, the people who are here, to return your tickets, and about 20 people didn't want to see you.
Who, I mean, let's not beat around the bush, racist.
But in the end, more people paid to see tickets after your name came up than Michael Sheen had sold to at that point 2 weeks before.
So we're at net gain.
Yeah. You've proven your worth.
I think we might, for my next... I'm doing some tour shows next year, and I think we might just say Michael Sheen's on all of them. And then just operate a very similar... But also, I would back him to play me. I know that it might be racially spicy, right? But Sheen's got curly hair and a beard, and I think he and I should swap lives, and he should go sort of performing, stand-up comedy in regional art centres, and I should be in the next Tony Blair film, which I assume, because he's done everything, they did the Deal and the Queen and the Special Relationship, which takes you up to Blair's relationship with Bill Clinton. So, I mean, it's slim pickings, isn't it? All that's left is the Iraq War and lobbying for the Saudi government. So in 2020, look out for me in the film The Fucking Disappointing Cunt.
I was going to ask Michael Sheen...
Yeah. Who I am.
If he would appear in a new film I'm writing called Herring Blessed. But I was going to ask him to play me. And I would play Brian Blessed. But I reckon you could play me and I could play Brian Blessed.
I think I could.
Either way, we could just swap over halfway through. Yeah. Because I realised how difficult it would be to learn all the Brian Blessed lines for that film.
It would be difficult. I mean, I think I could play you. I want to have sex with everything. I also do actually have a message from the actual Michael Sheen.
Oh, yes.
Because I DM'd him on Twitter and said, look, cards on the table. I've profited from you not being able to do this show. And he replied, hello, Nish. I feel like they're getting a far better deal now. Thank you for being my Richard Herring stunt double. Hello, and he's now addressing you people. Hello, Leicester Square Theatre. Yes, this is me, Michael Sheen.
Hooray, at last!
In yet another audacious inhabitation of a semi-iconic UK personality. I thought I'd try it out on you first before opening the Donmar production later this year of Nish Frocks On. A cross-dressing extravaganza with a political bent. See you there. Wow. That's Michael Sheen.
Michael Sheen. It'd be terrible if a tweet from Michael Sheen is the best thing in this podcast. That's what we've got to...
Again, reading that, you're like, whoa, he's funny. Wish he was doing this podcast.
So we mentioned Word of the Year 2017.
Yeah, I did Word of the Year 2017.
What was the Word of the Year 2017?
I actually can't fully remember. It was like they asked me to do it, and I said, does it pay? And they said, yes. And I was like, well, then I'll be fucking there. No, they asked me to do it, and I thought it was fun. And it ended up being a sort of conversation between me and my very dear friend and former guest of this show, Aisling B.
Nice.
And we talked about the various words of the year, and we were talking about fake news. And it was, all in all, a very pleasant afternoon.
I believe...
As you can hear, huge Word of the Year fans. Unbelievable.
I believe the Word of the Year 2017, which is last year...
Yeah.
...was Youthquake. Was that down to you? Did you decide that?
It was
Which
down
is a word
to me.
I've never heard before.
It's a word that got used by various political analysts to describe, I think, the election result, the general election result last year.
Right.
But I think the thing is, they had to pick something positive. Like, that was a positive thing to come out of 2017. But the actual Word of the Year was probably something like, fuck. Shitting. Fuck. Just when you think it can't get any worse. Oh, dear.
So, last week, we had someone who lived in your house on... When you were on the podcast last time...
Yeah.
I'm going to give a little secret away. We do record 2 on a week.
What?
Sometimes when I
watched Rose's one. I've been here for a week. What the...
Last time, the other guest was someone you were at school with, and this time, the other guest is someone you shared a house with.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You're the most connected man in comedy.
I am the
it's
most...
It's all about where you went to school with Matthew Crosby.
Yeah. Go to school with Matt Crosby, that gets you all sorts of doors open there. And then you got to live in my house with me, and I really am the kingmaker. When Rose moved in, she was a fucking little urchin orphan. She couldn't pronounce any words. She was like, oh, hello, Nish, it's me, Rose. I'm from New Zealand. I was just wondering, can you teach me how to do the comedy in your country? And because at the moment, I come from New Zealand, and all we have is the big Lord of the Rings. And what do you do? And I said, Rose, just sit yourself down. And it was like Pygmalion. I Henry Higgins the shit out of her, and now she's won a fucking award, and where is my cut of the 10 grand?
Good question. Has another comedian moved into that bedroom?
No, actually, currently that room is vacant. Finn Taylor lived in there for a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And he arrived, a little urchin. He was like, Nish, can you teach me how to do comedy? Very offensive impression of Rose. But a couple of people have lived in that room since. Some comedians, some non-comedians. Currently, no one is living there. And I am... my girlfriend is about to move in.
Oh...
She actually is a ghost. I don't know whether... You all laughed at that. It was an on-point... impression of my girlfriend. No, she's not a ghost. She's just extremely white, like that. And sometimes people say, "Oh, is she a ghost?" And they're like, "No, just Irish, just of Irish stock."
Is she moving into the spare room? Because that's actually not that good.
She's moving into We've been together for 7 years, so I think at this point she's like, "Yeah, I'll just take the spare room. You carry on."
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? That like our houses are very close together, or were very close together, and like so many comedians and podcasts as well came out.
Yeah.
Like so many podcasters came out.
It was a fertile time for podcasting in Shepherd's Bush by the looks of things, with you and Stuart Goldsmith. And it was pretty weird living with Goldsmith, because one day I get up very late. I'm a really lazy man. One day there was a knock on my door, and I opened it, and Matt Lucas was there, and I remember thinking, I don't remember ordering this guy. Like, it's just a very weird thing, because he's a delightful man, and he was very polite to me, but it's just very, like, I loved Shooting Stars, and George Dawes was quite an iconic figure in my childhood when I was growing up, and it's very unusual that you open the door and see an iconic figure from your childhood, largely because most of them are now in jail. So, like... it's great to see a figure unsullied by history turn up. But yeah, he was. That was when Stu was doing a lot of comedian podcasts, and he's still doing them, just not in my house anymore, unless he's been breaking in and secretly podcasting in my living room.
I wouldn't put it past him.
The guy loves a podcast.
Not as good as this podcast, though. What do you think is the best comedians talking to comedians podcast out of him and mine?
Oh, I don't know.
No, it's definitely this one.
Yeah. This is definitely a drunker podcast. I'd done Stuart's podcast as well, and I don't remember him being half cut.
No.
As I also made my way towards that.
That's because he didn't get sponsored by beer52.com. Go to beer52.com/RHLSTP for 8 free craft beers. The problem is, I can't remember what the deal is now. I'm not a very effective spokesman. I'm either a very effective spokesman or not an effective spokesman. This stuff is... Hey, fuck, that's... What the fuck is this? I can't read anymore. It's called Zamajska Pivarora. I've lost the ability to read. I know it is called that, so that's right.
Have you ever done an advert for something? Oh, sorry, yeah. Beer 52.
I haven't. I've now skirted towards sponsorship, and so I've done this.
Yeah.
There's a few things that sponsor this podcast. And I sort of think I talked to Adam Buxton and he changed my mind about it, actually. I was thinking, I'm not going to sponsor it. It's nice if the audience pay for it. But now I think it's quite nice if the audience get to have some free beer that pays for it. So I think that works. I did a podcast for a car insurance company, which I've never said the name of, even in the podcast. And I figured that was a way for me to pay for some of this podcast. And I did it on the condition that the podcast would just be us talking about issues with cars. And I would never have to say the name of I do 2 tweets that mentioned it. If you look back through, you can find out what it was. Right. Thanks for the money, though, guys.
I don't think I've never done an advert, and I don't particularly have any desire to do adverts, but I think no one has ever offered me an advert. So it's like, it's good for me because I've been able to take a principled stance without ever having to have those principles scrutinised in any way. But I think part of the problem for me is I look like the before guy in every advert. Like, it just looks like whatever your product is, it could somehow improve my appearance.
Well, I did turn things down in the past, but and I don't think I would. I think it's got to be the right thing.
Yeah, sure.
I know that beer is good. I'm happy with that, and I'm happy to give free beer.
Yeah, and also that's a good product to be affiliated with.
Yeah,
it's just, I can't wait to come back in 2 years' time to replace Jennifer Lawrence and on the podcast and have you open by being like, Halliburton supply many of the world's best weapons.
It'll happen. Once you've got kids, it all changes. Everything changes. But anyway, let's see what you're up to outside of.
I love this because it's like this can only happen on a podcast show. Because I would love it if one week Graham Norton was like, well, I'll tell you what, Zac Efron has fucking cancelled, and so we've literally had to get a bloke who lives behind me. Hello.
It's interesting. Like you've just been on Question Time, which
I
nice
did, yeah.
Nice. I've been offered Question Time, and I've never felt like doing it. I have to say. So, did you have any qualms about it?
I basically, this is also a story I tell on stage. Because I don't know why I felt the need to caveat it that way. But anyway, they asked me they asked me to do it for a while, and I kept saying they asked me to do it for a while because Romesh is too famous, right? After a while, that's how it works. They just go down the brown list, right? That's how it works. Is Romesh available? How about Anita Rani? Gandhi, dead. Right. Romesh is above Gandhi now, so he's done well, right? But they asked me, and I kept saying no, because I genuinely believe that comedians shouldn't go on Question Time, because I think you're an impediment to accountability. It should be about the electorate being able to cross-examine their MPs. And then I got fucking smashed. Came home, turned on the TV. It was a bunch of people I didn't like on Question Time, and I was just sat there being like, I must go on this programme and represent my community. I'm the brown Braveheart, freedom, right? would not accept emails that arrive after 3:30 a.m. So I got drunk and said, all right, I'll fucking do question time. And then the next morning I was like, why the fuck did I do that? And the first time I did it, there were two other panellists, and one was, there were a number of other panellists, but notably two other panellists were Gina Miller, who's an anti-Brexit campaigner, and Dawn Butler, who's a Labour MP, who were just impeccably qualified women of colour. And so there was literally no need for me to be there. Like, I added absolutely nothing to that panel. And then for some reason they asked me this time, and I was like, well, I've fucking done it once. I might as well just give it another crack. And like, it was, you know, it's a weird show to do. Like, they're all very nice, and everyone who works on the show is very nice. But it's a fascinating thing. The interesting thing is to get an up-close look at politicians and see how they kind of operate. And, you know, like I met James Cleverly, and the previous time I did it, I met Dominic Raab. And Dominic Raab is the Secretary of State for Brexit. And what's fascinating is when you actually get a close-up look at these people who you think are fucking morons, you get a close-up look of them and you realise they're fucking morons. Dominic Raab, I've talked about this before, I walked into the green room and he was saying, nice to meet you, Nish, to a man who turned out to be Gina Miller's brother. Like, literally. Like, he was like, nice to meet you, Nish, and I was like, and then he turned around and looked at me and wasn't, like, embarrassed, he was more surprised, like he was dealing with Eddie Murphy in Norbit.
But there was a good clip. I didn't see the actual show, but there was a good clip of you talking about Brexit very passionately.
Yeah, sure. I had a bit of a meltdown.
Yeah.
It's just like because they're sort of bickering. Cleverly and Keir Starmer are bickering, and you know, there's just problem is like there's no detail. When you ask somebody who voted leave, what do we do? They say, leave means leave. And you go, okay, I appreciate that leave means leave, but how do we leave? And they go, leave means leave. And you go, are you a fucking idiot? Like, the problem is that there's no detail. And when you keep asking the same questions and you get nothing, like we don't know what's going to happen about the Irish border, we don't know what our trading relationship is going to be, we don't even know if we're leaving with or without a deal. And the problem is when you ask for specifics like that and you're treated like a sort of lunatic, you get very frustrated. And some of that frustration boiled over, and long story short, I ended up using the phrase, Boris Johnson is just there, squatting down and curling out his weekly Daily Telegraph columns. Oh, it gets to you, and... You know, like, my dad hasn't seen it yet. And for my dad finds the idea of my career in comedy very difficult to reconcile. But when I did Question Time, I think he had a sort of sense of pride about it. Like, he was like, oh, look. And now he's in America, he hasn't seen it yet. He's going to come back and be like, oh, great, you said curling one out, you fucking idiot. It just kind of it just boiled over in that moment, which the clip has gone around the internet.
But I feel, you know, I know people say, oh, you know, you get this liberal metropolitan elite. I don't live in the metropolitan area anymore. So
yeah, of course you don't.
I'm very much in the heart of UKIP territory. Yeah. But, you know, it's just, surely most people just think, I mean, most people just want it to be over.
Yeah, that's
right.
And
most people just think it's insane, surely, that what's the way it's turning out.
I can't really... Surely, even if you voted leave, you can't still think it's going well.
No.
You know, like, surely even if you... I would have thought if you're a Leave voter, you're the least happy person right now because it's a fucking shit show and presumably a lot of people in your social circle are not talking to you, right? But, like, I'm just confused by people who are like, no, we voted for it, let's do it, and don't offer any detail beyond that. I think that's the frustrating thing, is even if you accept that there isn't going to be a second referendum and that we are going to leave, when you say things like, how do you resolve the question of the Irish border, people are just like, oh, yeah, fucking... And you're like, is that the end of it? And then they say things like, there'll be new technology. Like, I think they're basically banking on us inventing invisible border droids at some point before 2020.
But I think there was nothing in the original referendum that said when it would happen.
No.
So, like, people are saying it has to happen straight away. It didn't say that. It didn't say it would happen straight away. So, you know, you're already saying there's a flaw in the referendum that it didn't say when this was going to happen. It could happen in 100 years' time.
Amazon Prime has really spoiled everyone. I think people aren't used to... People genuinely want an Amazon Prime Brexit. Like, they're like... Oh, I'm sorry, I can order a tube of lube and an action figure of Margaret Thatcher and be shoving it up my arse inside 24 hours. So where's my Brexit?
Gonna happen, though, isn't it? Don't you think it's gonna
What, the
Brexit?
Margaret Thatcher doll going up my arse?
Well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's already happened.
That's happening right now.
It's gonna happen.
It is going to happen. It has to happen. I hope it doesn't happen. Because I think it will be a fucking a disaster for the country. I think it'll be a national catastrophe. But it is happening.
That's what's good about it. I'm very much on the side. I'm very much on the side of hard Brexit now. Hard Brexit.
I mean,
no
I follow
deal.
you on Twitter, so
I am.
you've gone very hard Brexit.
I mean, I
these days,
started as
haven't
a
you?
joke, and then I loved just the feeling of being a winner. It was just good. And I think by taking that position, you're in a no-lose situation, because if it works out that no deal hard Brexit is the best thing after all somehow,
yeah,
I can take all the plaudits for that.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, we'll have to just go back to the EU. Can we come back? Can we come back in now? Because we haven't got any food or medicine.
Several of our citizens have started eating each other. So the most frightening thing was when I think earlier this year, David Davis just kind of unprompted said, "Look, it's not going to be a Mad Max style dystopia," and you're like, why is that in your mind? Also, you specified Mad Max, so does that mean Blade Runner? Like, what the fuck is going on here?
I've got James O'Brien coming on. We haven't really talked about Brexit for a long time on this podcast, and we've got James O'Brien coming on in next week's recording, a couple of weeks' time after this one. And
he's furious.
He is furious.
He makes me look like a Brexiteer.
Yes. But all I did, I sent an email saying he was going to be on,
yeah.
and I called the email Brexit. With just the SH in brackets in the middle of Brexit. And 2 people emailed me from my mailing list going, it's disgusting that you... I can't think, who the fuck was following my mailing list who had no idea that I... Well, like you say, Brexit isn't really making a comment on what's right or wrong.
No.
That's just saying... Not going very well, is it? We should all be annoyed about it. And you've booked someone who's pro-Brexit. The other 2 politicians I've had on are both ex-Remainers who now believe we should leave, which is...
Ed Miliband.
And Jess Phillips.
And Jess Phillips, right, yeah.
So, I've obviously booked people who aren't as hard as a Remainer as James is, but it's sort of amazing that people still get that kind of... They go, I'm never coming to see you live again. I go, did you ever come before? Because I think you'd have spotted something I think you wouldn't have liked. and the need to, I don't mind people leaving my mailing list, but actually 2 people bothered to email me back to tell me how furious they were that I had a guest that they didn't like, which was obviously the problem, and that I'd called Brexit Brexit.
But I'm fascinated to know who, at this point, you have not been reticent in your views about Brexit, Richard, and I'm fascinated who has clung on for this long, even with all of your... Unless they failed to appreciate, the people that thought Ali G was just a cool guy. They've been like, well, fucking too fucking right. You've been doing this kind of densely layered parody of a hard Brexiteer, and they're like, oh, this is fucking getting me hard. This guy's on point as a commentator. But I just love the idea that... Because James O'Brien he's the sort of person that pushes a lot of those people over the edge. But I get emails. I mean, I got a Facebook message this week on my Facebook fan page which is very rarely used. I lost the password to it, and so I can only see things that get emailed to me. I can't see the messages, but I got an email from a guy, and because it came through the Facebook thing, I was able to follow his profile, and he'd said, listen, if it's so bad, why don't you just leave? And his location is Spain. He's just like, why don't you fuck off back to fucking wherever the fuck you've come from? Not like British people like me who live in good British places like the Costa del Sol.
Well, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? That's the thing. It's going to be an interesting time.
It's going to be... So, next year, 2019, obviously if you're listening in 2070 and you're now in the People's Republic of Brexitania... on March 29th, I'm doing the London date of my tour, which is at the Hackney Empire, so it's on Brexit night. So I'm currently looking into getting 1,500 cans of beans to give the audience as a freebie on the way in. Because by the time they leave the show, we will technically have left the EU.
It's actually quite interesting listening back to the one we did, like, it was a week or two after the vote.
Yeah, sure.
And you know, if you listen to it, because so much now is people saying, "Oh, we never said this, we never did this."
Yeah,
But even if you listen to what we're talking about, it's no one was given any clear idea of what either side meant.
Yeah.
You know, the people, and increasingly as it's gone on, the whole story's just changed. So the thing that gets me is people go, you constantly, 17.2 million people voted for this, and you're disrespecting 17.2 million people. And those people are completely ignoring the 16 point whatever it was.
Yeah, completely.
So they're saying it's okay to ignore 16 million people, but come on, not 17. But sure, you're ignoring 16 million. Yeah, well, that's the extra million that's the key.
I'd sort of slightly forgotten about the sort of details of that. But your podcast last time was the first time that I spoke about something that happened to me. On the night of the vote was announced on the Friday morning, and that night I was doing a gig at the Comedy Store, and a guy told me to go home on stage. And it's the first time I've ever been racially abused. And it felt like this huge sort of symbolic moment, because we'd left that morning. And it felt like this kind of sea change in the way that I saw this country. And it was this really incredible moment. And afterwards, I talked about it at the Late Show, and then I decided, look, I'm not going to talk about it because there's so much stuff going on, and I don't want to trivialise any of these issues and make it feel like it was all about me. And then, probably a couple of days before I did your show, I saw an interview with Daniel Hannan, who is a fucking moron and a stupid, useless cunt, right? And he was giving this interview where he was asked by Christina Munpour from CNN if the hate crime statistics rise has anything to do with Brexit. So but already by that stage, they'd identified the fact that hate crimes were on the rise in the 4 or 5 days since Brexit, and he refused to acknowledge it. And so I was like, well, I now have to talk about it because my experience is being denied by a lot of the people who have driven us to this point. And so I talked about it on your show, and then I wrote a Guardian article about it because someone heard it on the show, and it became the ending of that Edinburgh show and that tour show. And it was one of those amazing moments where you kind of go, no, my personal experience has value, and if I don't talk about it, I'm allowing people like Hannan to kind of co-opt the narrative and erase my experience of my life. We're all thinking it. Sheen would have been funnier.
But how has it been in the last 2 years ago since you were has anything like that happened again? Has it felt?
No. I think what's happened is of course, all sorts of shit has happened. Yeah. I did a gig in Leicester Square where I talked about Brexit, and a man unplugged my microphone. Literally, there was a party of 30 people in who got so furious. There was 100 people in, 30 of them kicked off violently. One of them unplugged my microphone, and another man shouted, "You, sir, are a cunt," which, if you're going to call someone a cunt, it's going to invalidate any prior use of the word sir. Like, I would argue there's no point in embarking on a sentence that culminates in the worst swear word in the English language and opening with formality, right? I've had a lot of really fractious run-ins on stage with people. Obviously, with my tour shows, by the time they come and see you on tour, they've generally got an idea of what the vibe is. I've had 2 people walk out because of kind of Brexit-related stuff, but even they sort of did it. It wasn't a kind of storm out. It was more a kind of like, oh, I disagree, but I don't want to upset him because he seems insane. And
some people just love leaving, that's the thing.
You're absolutely right. You run that risk. If you upset a group of people who've defined themselves by leaving, you do run the risk of walkouts.
Yeah, they're no longer on my email list, but they still have the rights to come and... Anyway, yeah, well, it's a terrifying time.
It is indeed.
To be alive.
How do you feel because you have children, and as such, your experience is more valuable than mine.
Yes.
How do you feel about the fact that your children they're about to sort of emerge into this quite frightening place?
I mean, I'm sort of worried about, in the short term, you sort of feel you can shield little children from most things.
Yeah.
But I feel more worried that the planet Earth isn't really going to be
inhabitable
in 20th. And I think a lot of this is a lot of this throwback that I actually think ultimately in the course of history, this little step backwards.
Yeah.
Hopefully will be a little step backwards. Even if it's a big step backwards, I think it will lead to things moving forwards.
Sure.
But because of the environmental aspect of all these pricks that are going to be in charge of stuff for a while, that might be too late. So I kind of worry about that, about, about my children being 18 and living in a world where,
I love the idea that I've become the sort of worst type of person where I'm so obsessed with Brexit that I forget that the world's going to end. I really... a couple of weekends ago, I was doing the Comedy Central Festival in Southampton, and we did a live drunk history, and I have no memory of what happened afterwards. Me and Joel Dommett were on stage doing a live drunk history. They gave us some tequila. I got fucking shit-faced, and I have no memory of what happened afterwards. And apparently, I walked off stage and immediately walked into the green room and was like, "Who wants to talk about Brexit?" And just went absolutely off on anyone who would listen. And I just remember hearing that and thinking, that is very on brand.
Well, it's the first step in it, and I think Trump being in charge of the world's greatest superpower. Who would have thought putting an idiot in charge of the world's greatest superpower would lead to any problems? Who could have predicted that?
Who could possibly have seen that coming?
But so all that he's doing, I think, is probably enough. It's probably enough to mean that we can't step back from it.
Well,
that's sort of the terrifying thing about it. If we even get through.
It's the only thing that I would say, as a positive about Trump, is that about 6 months before he won, there's an African-American historian called Stephen Thrasher who made a video for The Guardian where he said Trump is going to win because it's a natural progress of American history, is that they have some massive significant gain in terms of civil rights and then a massive setback. So he said, after the Civil War, there was Jim Crow, and the civil rights movement in the 60s resulted in police brutality in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and continuing up to this day. And he said, an African-American president means that there's going to have to be a racist president, and then everything will right itself in 2042. I mean, listen, given from what I guess 2042 is the point at which America becomes predominantly people of colour, and given the demographic in this room, it is a very dangerous statement for me to essentially say, don't worry, someday all the white people will be dead.
Got Rose Matafeo in there as
Yeah,
well.
She's fucking loving it at the back. Yeah, die, Whitey. That's my impression of her.
It's good. We'll move away from this for a second.
Yeah, sure.
Let's talk about the homoerotic tension between you and your friend on Joel Dommett going around the world together.
It was interesting because I genuinely, in my mind, was like, which one is he going to say?
You're doing a show about you. I mean, you're doing one of those shows that you look at and go, this is just guys going around the world having adventures.
It's the most ridiculous job I've ever had and will ever have. So it's called Joel and Nish versus the World, and the premise of it is that it was a show originally developed around Joel. So I am literally just... So basically the premise of the show is that Joel is really into CrossFit, which is, they call it real world fitness. It's basically prison workouts for people who belong to a socio-economic demographic that means they're unlikely to ever be in jail, right? And so the premise of it is it's real-world fitness, so you don't use exercise machines, you just do kind of workout. I don't even fucking know what it involves, right? But he's really into that. So the idea that they thought was Joel goes around and lives with people who live physically, and let's see how someone who in the West is supposedly real-world fit deals with people who live that way every day. Spoiler alert, very badly, right? And they basically realised in the first series that if Joel was going to do this stuff, he would need someone to sort of function as the presenter in the show while he was doing crazy stuff. AKA, they needed a sassy, chunky ethnic. Ahoy. Again, Ramesh, too famous, right? But Gandhi, not fat enough, right? So and in that sweet spot, that's exactly... He's not. I'm sorry. If you're oohing that, you're ignoring history, right? I went, and so basically I'm there as Joel's nerdy sidekick. I'm there, we have that sort of, it's like an 80s buddy cop double act, where he's the, handsome one, and I am also there. But in the second series, so in the first series we went to Mexico and he ran an ultra marathon, and we lived with the Chavante, who are this amazing Brazilian tribe who do these kind of crazy log races. And then in the second series they decided that they should get me more involved. So I have now been sumo wrestling, and I shat myself on a mountain in Peru. So all in all, I shat myself on camera. Like this. Basically, I was feeling a bit spicy, right? Let's just put it this way. I was thinking, where is Richard Herring's front door when I need it? And let me tell you, given the state of my stomach, you would not have been able to sweep that up easily, Richard. It would have looked like Jackson Pollock himself had committed a hate crime on your property. So I was feeling a bit dodgy. At the beginning of every episode, Joel kind of goes, "Where are we, Nish?" So that I can kind of do the kind of, the introductory bit. And he went, "Where are we, Nish?" And I went, "Well, Joel, I've got to go!" And on camera, I run off and then you just see me disappear. And what happened was I went into the bushes and shat myself on a mountain. Unfortunately, some of the fecal matter had already been deposited in my trews. Pretty degrading stuff. I imagine this is what a lot of you thought Michael Sheen would be like. I'll never forget when I was filming The Damned United, as I was lining up in the dugout at Derby County, and I shat myself, much to the disgust of Timothy Spall.
And the bit I saw, you were sporting a moustache. Was that a...
Yeah, basically, we were with these the gauchos who are like Argentinian cowboys, and they have this they have proper like juicy tashes. And the producer said, "Oh, it'd be fun if you guys..." Because it's not a very... I think people are very cynical about the way TV shows are made, and they think that there's a lot of artifice, which there really isn't with this show. And all that would happen is occasionally someone would say, "It might be fun if one of you does this thing in this situation." And they said, one of the things we think would be funny is if you shave your beard and leave a moustache. And it turns out, without a beard and with just a moustache, I look like Super Mario / my father in the 80s. However, when I returned home from that journey, that was not the opinion of the customs officials at Heathrow Airport. Because I went through the nothing to declare aisle because I had nothing to declare, and literally 5 guys come towards me going, "Where do you think you are?" Turns out I think with a moustache I look like Super Mario, and they think I look like the actual Pablo Escobar. Full Narcos. But you're absolutely right to be disgusted by it. It's absurd to make a living travelling around the world with one of my best friends and having an absolute whale of a time. It's ridiculous.
Went everywhere. I mean, it's literally all over the world.
We went to Japan twice, Tahiti, New Zealand, where I did meet a shepherd.
Yeah, thank goodness someone did.
He was flying the fucking plane. Like, it was... That country's an absolute joke, right?
Did he have his crook with him?
He had his crook with him, which I did say was, I don't mean to be a backseat passenger in a plane, but that's going to impede your ability to pilot.
They should just put the crook into the joystick.
Also, definitely not a joystick, Richard. I think you failed pilot school. Where's the joystick? Yeah, it was a ridiculous job to have done.
Yeah,
and I loved it. It was great.
It's fun, and
it's really fun.
But it's fun to watch as well. So the horse with guys are incredible.
Fuck me,
That's just, and you're so. Was that the first time you'd seen it?
Yeah. So they.
I mean, it's hard to explain it.
We basically on day one, we sat on a horse, and they were sort of moving the cameras around, and the horse just literally threw me off. Was it racist? Hard to say, but it didn't throw Joel off. The answer is yes, right? And so they were trying. We really struggled. Like horse riding is fucking hard for anyone, let alone 2 complete buffoons, right? And so they sent us to this guy who's like, he's basically a horse whisperer. but he kind of is very... They were trying to teach us some kind of horse manner, like how to be around a horse so it doesn't freak out. Because they were saying part of the reason the horse is freaking out is because you're freaking out. And I was like, yeah, but in my defence, it's a fucking horse, mate. Like, no, I'm not comfortable up here. And so they sent us to this guy to teach us, like, horse vibes. And listen. It is alarmingly sexual.
It's more than a horse whisperer.
Yeah, it's a horse fucker. Like, I'm not like... He's literally, at one point, he's lying on top of the horse. Like, the horse is, like, lying back, and he's just fully on top. And it's just, the horse is completely calm, and he stands on the horse. It's wild. And they sort of showed us this thing, but it's another thing where they literally just kind of go, there's really no sort of artifice on the show. They were literally like, this is about to happen. See what you think. And you sort of walk out, and you're like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. Oh. That guy's fucking a horse.
I mean, he isn't quite, but it was because Joel sort of wanders in. It's like he was doing something else.
Yeah.
Fuck! There's a bit. He's sort of lying on the horse, and then he kind of reaches down and sort of flicks a little bit of the horse's neck.
Yeah.
The horse loves it.
I mean, listen.
Did you have a go at doing that?
No,
bit?
but let's just put it this way. I'm in that shot. I am only filmed from the waist up because I was fully erect.
Let's ask you an emergency question to get away from the bestiality, which we do not approve of. So it's one thing to have sex.
Things have become weirdly sexual. Let's reach for my book of sex questions. My big book of dick queries.
There are many other things. Just scanning the page to find them.
It's amazing Richard didn't ask me for a cover quote.
If you had to invent a fifth season, which two other seasons would you put it in between, and what would happen in it? No cocks in that.
I would invent dick season.
Oh, no.
I would put one in between... I would put one in between summer and autumn.
Okay.
Because I like autumn, and I like summer. Summer's a bit too hot. And autumn, you're going into winter, so it's a little bit depressing. It's this lady who nodded so earnestly. As I said, I found that genuinely endearing. She was just sitting there going, that would be a fucking brilliant idea. I think let's go in between summer and autumn.
Yeah.
Sumtum.
Yeah, sumtum.
Let's have a bit of sumtum. It's not as hot as summer, but it's not as tum as autumn.
Okay. That sounds good.
Pretty good. Would Michael Sheen have done that?
I don't think he could do emergency questions. He would need to prepare for every
he would need
question.
to. Well,
he had 2 weeks to live the question. Right. If you have sex with a Frankenstein, are you cheating on your partner?
Ooh. Yes.
Yeah?
I'm going to say yes, because the Frankenstein is a sentient creature. Mm. Whereas I think, if it's just a dead body, fire away. I say, if it's a corpse with no sentience, any hole's a goal.
What if part of the Frankenstein is taken from your partner? Which then that doesn't necessarily mean they're dead. It could be like one of their kidneys or a leg or something.
No.
So part of the Frankenstein is actually your partner.
I still think that is technically adult. I mean, if your partner's died...
Yeah.
Then, I guess it's a better version. If your partner's died, it's better and you're going to have sex with a Frankenstein, then it's better that it has a bit of your partner in it than none. If your partner's still alive, I think that is going to be a very, very tricky conversation.
Is it cheating to have sex with someone who has had an organ donated to them by your partner? Or is it your duty? The anus is not an organ.
Richard, I hope you live a long and full life. But I hope that when the unfortunately inevitable does happen to you, on your gravestone it reads, "An anus is not an organ." I think it's definitely cheating if it's if it's just an organ from your partner. I think that's definitely cheating, and I definitely don't think it's your duty. But the fact that you phrased it like that suggests this is a conversation you have had with your long-suffering wife.
And I'm just looking for loopholes. That's all. So it's just a lot of things aren't covered in the marriage vows. That's all I'm saying.
In sickness and in health and in the donation of an organ to a person and robots.
Got to think very carefully if you're going to get married. That's going to happen. Make sure it's all in there. So let's talk about. You've done a lot since you were last. You've had a very full 2 years since you were last on. You've done very well. You've done Taskmaster.
I did Taskmaster. Yeah, it was. I mean, listen. Did I do well at Taskmaster? Yes. I was the first person that did so badly at Taskmaster that Greg Davis took me aside and told me off. Leading to the thing that I feel will be on my gravestone, which is a direct quote from Greg Davis, which is just, "You're not a bad guy, Nish." It's one of the shows, whenever people ask you about it, they're like, "Is it as fun as it looks?" And you go, "Yeah." It's real fun. It's absolute fucking nonsense. It's a lot of fun. I think I've really enjoyed doing things like Taskmaster and the show with Joel in the last couple of years, because otherwise I've been doing stand-up and like some radio stuff and some TV stuff that's focused on the news, and every day you get a kind of news story and you have to try and turn it in. And it is fun to just do, sometimes, some fucking stupid bullshit, and it feels like really cleansing. And Taskmaster was so much fun.
Yeah, believe me, as a viewer, that is also true of your stuff.
I get the feeling you are in part relieved Michael Sheen is now not here. You've had a couple of beers and you're in a mischievous mood and you're like, I am glad that I don't have to say, did you ever see Frank Langella's dick on the set of Frost Nixon?
I'd have been very respectful to Michael Sheen.
You would have been so respectful to Michael Sheen. That's what's hard to take. If it was Sheen, he'd be like, "Woo, Michael! I love the deal." With me, it's like, "Right, you fucking stand up as a bag of old shit."
You were on House of Games?
I was on House of Games.
How'd you get on House of Games?
Well, put it this way, my toilet rolls are currently in a trophy with Richard Osman's face on.
Well, that's very good. I've been on House of Games, and I'm not allowed to talk about it yet because it's not been televised. But I know what happened. You can probably guess, to be fair, but it's.
Is this going to be Celebrity Mastermind over it all over again?
Pointless.
And pointless.
3 times pointless. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not allowed to give any clues. My toilet rolls are not in a... And so the MASH report, it's the second series is about to start as we... Which seems impossible because there's been about 7 series already.
So many of them. Yeah, we did 4 episodes last summer and then 6 episodes in January, and that 10 episodes was our first series. And so this is our second series, technically. A lot of people think it's the third. Tell them it's the third. It makes us sound more successful than we are. Please, for the love of God.
2 series 6 months apart. That's insane.
Well, I mean, welcome to our world, Richard. To be completely honest with you, I mean, no one thought the pilot... When we were doing the pilot, everyone was like, this ain't going to get fucking made. Then we did the pilot, and it got commissioned, and when we did the first episode, everyone was like, it'll probably get cancelled. And then after we did the first 4, we were like, they're never bringing us back for the rest of them. And then now we're in the second series, and no one can quite believe it. Like, I just come from the office today, and everyone's kind of walking around being like, is this an elaborate hoax? We love doing it, and no one can quite believe... Because it's weird doing that kind of show, because when we did it, the first week, there were like 4 articles in various different publications saying, this is probably going to be fucking shit. And at the time, we were like, oh, that really sucks that people are already writing us off. Now, I genuinely believe it's the greatest thing that ever happened to us, because people saw the first episode, which was not great, but not shit, and everyone was like, this is a fucking masterpiece.
Well, it's interesting because the UK has done very, very badly at this type of show, which is a topical show that in America there's like 10 versions of that show that are working fantastically well and have gone for many years. And in the UK, they've sort of fucked them all up.
Yeah.
I think the MASH report is definitely, even from the first episode, is definitely the best one.
Yeah.
And I think when you did your second series in January that you think is a different series, it really found its... Well, because you hit that... You and Rachel had that kind of lovely...
Yeah, that's right.
Chemistry suddenly, where because Rachel was suddenly a bit more kind of involved, I guess, and did like slightly more involved bits. But then you were also involved in that, and there's a lovely relationship between the two of you, I think, is developed.
Well, it's one of those things where, with the first episode, the producers had this idea that Rachel would be sort of manning a social media wall, and it would be her dealing with fake offensive tweets about the first show. And it was really funny, and it worked really nicely. And then the idea was always, well, we've got Rachel. Rachel Parris is a phenomenal comedian and improviser, and the idea was, well, we'll have her do loads of stuff. And what we discovered once the series starts is it's fucking madness, and everybody is so rushed off their feet that no one has any time to come up with new ideas. And one of the things that immediately, when we were talking about the 6 that we did in January, was we have to do more stuff with Rachel. And so we were able to bring Rachel in for meetings, and all of us sat down and kind of talked about it. And to be honest, the reason I think it's been successful, whatever success it's achieved, I think it's because of the way that it was commissioned. And the BBC showed a lot of faith by saying, we want 10. So we did a non-broadcast pilot, and then they went, we're going to do 10. Because you have to do 10. These things are so fucking hard. When you compare them, people always say, well, it's not The Daily Show. To anything that tries to be in that same arena. But The Daily Show was in existence for, I think, a year before Jon Stewart hosted it, at least. It was hosted by a guy called Craig Kilborn. Stewart wasn't even the original host of The Daily Show. And in America, part of the reason these things succeed is they get ordered for 20, 25 episodes. Whereas here, we don't normally have that scope. And so we were very lucky with the show. They gave us 10, and I think that's why it succeeded. And also, everyone on it is it's their first big thing. They basically wanted... I don't think I should say this. I'm going to say it. They basically wanted a more famous host. And they all said no. And they went down a list. And eventually they were like, him? And so but because of that, I think it's the biggest thing I've ever done in my career, and it's everyone on the show's number one priority, and so it's a really fun thing to work on.
But that's, TV makes this mistake again and again, both the mistakes. They judge something by episode 1 only, and then it's decided, and because that's often what the reviews review the first episode.
Yeah, sure.
They don't give something a chance to run in. They're too scared to go with their gut instinct on stuff, basically. And also they try to put famous people in everything, and actually things that are successful are allowed a bit of a run-up, haven't got a spotlight on them from the beginning, and usually, if you look at The Office, none of the people in The Office, apart from Ricky a little bit, were even known at all, and so and those guys are now, let's put Tim from The Office in everything, innit?
He was the first choice for the MASH report. But it's very difficult because you have to deliver a lot of it to camera, so it would have been quite tricky for him to be... you're right.
And there's that hunger, and there's trusting the people that you've got to do something to give it a good crack. And that, I think that really is interesting. I have watched, I think, nearly all of the MASH report, not all of it. And the difference between the first and the second series, the first 1.1 and 1.2, is just it's suddenly got you hit the ground on those second lot of 6, and that you both Rachel's thing about sexual harassment and having that conversation with her, which genuinely looked like you hadn't rehearsed it.
I hadn't rehearsed it, because I am what's known in the industry as a woeful actor. So if I'd rehearsed it, I would have been like, Rachel, please do not make sex in my face! So they were like, well, we'll probably keep him out of rehearsal. And so all the reactions in that clip are genuine, yes.
And, and Rachel it's brilliant for Rachel, who's, I think, has been going for a long time.
Yeah.
Done lots and lots of different things. Is so talented. And just those 2 episodes, those first 2 episodes of that second lot were went viral worldwide.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
The Trump thing and the sexual harassment thing.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing about Rachel is that whenever you go off script with her, she's like I've known Rachel since we both started, and she's like a musical comedian, and she's wonderful, but she's also in ostentation and ostentatious and an incredible improviser. And when you go off script with her, I can only imagine it's like playing tennis with Federer. Like, it's literally like you put one back and it just comes past you at a speed you can't believe. And that's kind of it's exciting in those moments when it happens, because you can really see somebody kind of coming into their own as a performer. Like, she's fucking brilliant, and it's a lot of fun to kind of be her stooge. Like, it really is.
Yeah, well, I can see the MASH report becoming the Daily Show, in that hopefully they'll replace the original host with someone good for the rest of it.
Listen, I would happily be Craig Kilborn to Ramesh Ranganathan's Jon Stewart. Well, Stewart's in town, isn't he? As we record, Jon Stewart is here. So, I mean, for all those people who are like, this would be better if it hosted by Jon Stewart, write him a letter.
But no, I mean, it's great, and I just thought I think. I don't know. It's nice to see that something can be given a chance and also not be held up to those kind of the things where they put. I don't know why it happens, because everything when they try to copy something else, and I don't think it's. I suppose you could say, oh well, it's trying to do an American style show, but it's not. That's a style of show. That's not the same thing. Everything where something is trying to be copied, where someone goes, "Oh, The Simpsons is good. Let's make something that's like The Simpsons." The thing that is made is terrible. The reason The Simpsons succeeded was because it was
like nothing else. Yeah.
That's the thing that baffles me about the TV industry, is that people haven't spotted that. And because it's easier to go, oh, let's put the successful people in everything.
Yeah.
And for someone who's been a success in something else and not taking the chance. And when there are so many comedians, I mean, that's the terrifying thing, I think, as any comedian now. But
yeah, sure.
When I started as a comedian, there were 25 comedians. you had a good chance to get your TV show. But now there's like 1,000. There's 1,000 comedians who you could easily see getting their own TV show. So there's a lot of people to choose from.
Yeah. You always just... I just feel very, very lucky to have done the things that I've done. And, I'm just like... as with a lot of people that I'm friends with, we're all just, sat there being like, I hope no one finds out that we're shit. And let's just ride this thing until someone tells us to get off. It really is that level. But I give the BBC a lot of credit for the MASH report and the way that it's turned out, because there's a lot of faith shown in us that I don't think we would have been afforded necessarily on other networks.
No. Or often on the BBC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily speaking personally. They gave us quite a lot of goes, actually. So your stand-up show, your latest stand-up show. I saw your last stand-up show, I think, or maybe the one before me.
Was it the one with the Brexit show?
Yeah.
The Brexit routine at the end?
Yeah. We came to see you in the Bush Theatre because it was very easy. Was that a different one?
No, that was like a sort of weird version of a work in progress for this show.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like probably last summer. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was. It's just before we moved, maybe.
Yeah, it was. I basically was supposed to do Edinburgh. This is how confident we were that the MASH report wouldn't get picked up. I had Edinburgh booked in because we assumed the pilot wouldn't be picked up. And so we had to then hastily cancel it. But I had a couple of gigs that I thought, well, I'll do them, especially because the Bush Theatre is so close to my current and your former abode.
Yeah, let's not give up. We can start to pinpoint it.
I already feel like Matt Fayos fucking shat the bed on this one. Oh, yeah, Nash lives real close to a Nindo's. So if you are in Shepherd's Bush and you find a Nindo's, you can probably find Nish's house. Oh, that's good. It's not like anyone is angry with him because of things they have said about Brexit.
So you're touring the show. Well, you've been touring it. This new show. It's in your nature to destroy yourselves.
That's right. Yeah. It's a quote from Terminator 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I didn't get that. At what point does that happen in
There's
Terminator?
a bit in it where where two children are fighting with toy guns when they're in New Mexico going to the armory.
Yes,
and John Connor says, we're not going to make it, are we? And the Terminator says, it's in your nature to destroy yourselves. And I really like it because it sounds like... I've been thinking about that quite a lot since Brexit and Trump. And I really like it because initially people assume that it's from some sort of highbrow source. And you go, no, mate, Arnie. Got ya.
And you're touring that. You've been touring it already, and you're touring it again in January.
I've done about 19 dates, and now we're on a hiatus, so I can do the MASH report, and then in January I'm back on the road.
Cool. Has the MASH report doubled your audience, tripled your audience?
Yeah,
halved your audience?
I mean, my last tour, I performed to an audience of 15 in one show, Richard, so it has quite literally doubled it. It's increased it in some areas by a factor of 200%. It's the thing that it does, and you must have found this touring down the years, is that what it does is it gives you the 10 minutes at the top of the show where if people don't know who you are, they think this could be shit. And what it does give you is that just 10 minutes buy-in off the top, like of just being like people just assuming it's going to be good before it starts.
Yeah. No, it doesn't happen to me. I know, but it's interesting. I think again as a comedian. It's so hard now. I think that I just sort of admire young comedians and the drive people have. Because it's so hard to break through, and to get to that stage of touring is like an incredible achievement.
Yeah.
And it is something I'm quite proud of in myself. In that, as a solo comedian, I sort of had to start again, and I was starting from 25, 30 people coming to see me.
Yeah.
And 15 years later, I can sometimes get 40 people now. I've had 500, 600 people occasionally come to see me, and still sometimes 100 people come to see me. And so you've built that up, but it obviously helps if you get a boost, and you've been doing.
It definitely has given the tour numbers a boost. I mean, look, next year we've booked in some room sizes that are, let's face it, optimistic. But the 250, 300 seat rooms, it's given a real boost to, and the shows have been really good fun, and it's a really enjoyable thing to sort of get to do, what's fun about it is that when you do have like a tour manager, and that takes the pressure off. It's fun when you have a support act. Some of the support acts are nicer than others. I've been supported on a number of occasions by Rosie Jones this tour, who's a fucking piece of shit. Rosie's a very funny comedian. She has cerebral palsy, and she has a fun new game where when we're in public together, she throws herself on the floor and shouts, "Help, help, the man from the MASH report pushed a disabled girl." That's the sort of fun of it, just touring with people and getting to do that, and it's good fun. I've really loved it.
Oh, good. It's great to see people, pushing through in this way, and especially like 2 years ago, I was worried for you, and now I think you're probably going to be okay.
This exact conversation with my mother. A couple of years ago, Nish, we were thinking, "Whoa, fucking hell, is a law conversion, can we do something in that arena?" Now, now we're thinking, maybe teaching.
You've got beautiful eyes.
Thanks, Richard.
I just wanted to tell you that.
Does Sheen have beautiful eyes? Where the fuck are you, Sheen, with your eyes?
I was going to say something else, but it's gone.
Is it that I've got a beautiful penis? Possibly.
I've yet to see. You've got an impressive anus. If that shit was yours, then listen, I'm very impressed.
There's a mountainside in Peru that can testify to the quality of my anus, Richard.
Look, have a fantastic time with this series of MASH Report, which will probably all have been out by the time. How many episodes are on this?
We got 6 episodes.
Yeah, it will all have been gone by the time
It'll all
this
have
goes
been
out.
gone.
It'll come and gone. People have judged it.
Watch it illegally online, which is what you fucking people seem to do, leading to my exec to describe our ratings as being at the lower end of acceptable.
With that gig in Bush Theatre was lovely, and it was kind of an early evening gig, so it was perfect.
Yeah, it was really it was really nice, and it was a delight to see you there, Richard.
If you come and gig in my village hall, I'll come and see you then as well. So
So we'll see if that's on your
Well,
itinerary.
it always means a lot. I'm a long-standing friend of your wife.
Yes.
Because we started comedy at the same time.
That's right.
And I've always been a big fan of yours. And I'm
Not so much that when Matt Lucas came to your door, he said, "There's a childhood hero," and I was living in the house. You never came round and said, "Excuse me, mate. Just wanted to say I love Fist of Fun." You were always the funny one. I don't understand that. You'll be podcasting in 10 years. So, well, ladies and gentlemen... he's no Michael Sheen, but can you please give a massive round of applause to my fantastic guest, Nish Kumar.
Cheers, man.
Thank you very much. We're back next week with Amanda Abington and James O'Brien. Don't unfollow me.
And me. I will be replacing Amanda Abingdon and James O'Brien.
I'll be at the back in about 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. Thank you very much for watching Rich Herring's Leicester Square Theatre podcast with me, Rich Herring. I hope you enjoyed it. Do remember we're sponsored by beer52.com. Go to beer52.com/RHLSTP to claim your 8 free beers and just pay £2.95 for them to send it to you and put it in a package. And then you can stay subscribed or not. It's up to you. Also, buy my book, Emergency Questions, 1001 emergency questions just for you to ask all your friends and strangers and dates and enemies and lovers and mother. And if you love your mother, you can ask her. And if you're making love to your mother, you can ask her some of the questions too. Don't do that. Okay. Thanks for watching. Bye. How'd you like them sky potatoes?